I immediately wanted to get a home to help these women because I would tell them, if you want out, call me.
Wow.
If you want out, call me. I'll help you. No matter what that looks like, from a pimp, from an abuser.
I hope you have bodyguards.
You would No, I went just like this.
You just
by myself.
The armor of God, I guess.
I tell people, because they ask me, and I say, it was truly the glory of God that sent me him going. I say I could just picture him going, oh gosh, there she goes again.
There she goes again. Gotta protect her. Hi, I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm Katie Sudano.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
Welcome
to the Voice Up for the Voiceless.
I am so excited that you've tuned in for our conversation today. We are a podcast that addresses the issue of child sexual abuse, exploitation, and have even had some shows on the deep and dark ritual abuse. And Katie and I feel like we're giving a voice to the voiceless, and we're breaking the silence. Breaking the silence, because it is a silent, taboo, stigmatized subject. So
I know, I get excited. People, my husband asked me the other day, why do you laugh every time you say breaking the silence? I'm like, because it's exciting.
It is exciting.
I mean,
Yes.
Our guest here, we're so excited to have. Kind of started the journey, I guess, from what I understand, around the time I did. So I don't know if you get giddy, but to introduce our guest, LaNora Purvis. Welcome. Oh, my goodness.
Thank y'all for having me. It is such an honor to be here, and I have followed Miss Angela for many years of my journey, and so this is just a dream come true.
I know you drove all the way from Texas.
All the way from
incredible.
You get our award.
Yeah.
Well, we did have someone from New Zealand, so I guess that would be the farthest, but she was on Zoom, so she did make the commitment of the drive. So
my goodness, but where in Texas did you come from?
North of Houston.
North of Houston. Okay, so that was what, 16 hours?
I believe it was.
How long did it take?
About 15 hours.
Okay. Wow.
Still, we're happy you made the journey, because it's certainly, I think, just in our conversations, to have someone in person is so much more intimate. And
that's what I was wanting. I didn't want to do Zoom.
And I wanted to see you.
And you offered in Zoom, and I was like, I don't want to do Zoom.
I'm so glad the Zoom thing. I'm like, where do I look?
Well, technology is always challenging in our lives.
Yeah.
It either works great or it doesn't work at all. So we're happy that you're here. And we
used it as a journey to get to know each other even deeper and closer, and still so much happened even on that drive when you're in the car that long with someone.
Yeah,
you just really get close. And so.
But I wish I could be a fly on the car. Yeah, see what kind of conversation. But this is kind of what we're doing today. So. To get to know you and your experience, and also, I guess, the work you've done since 2009, you said?
Well,
before?
I'm excited to say that it so just blesses me so much to see the fruit of my work. And I feel like LaNora came through our retreat. We were trying to figure out what year it was. Yes. I think we decided it was 2010.
Yes.
And that's really when you started your healing journey and started being obedient to the call of God on your life.
Right.
So tell us. Let's start with, let's talk about what happened to you. I mean, we have such similar stories. When I was reading your book, which we're going to dive into this later, but guys, I really want to do a shout out for her book, You Would Never Know. Healing from the Past Brings Hope for the Future. I'm going to remember that. That just to me is stuck in my heart. Healing from the past brings hope for the future. So
I want to read the book. Is it? Do you have it on Amazon, or everywhere?
Yes, and I had books to bring y'all, and then I left them in Alabama.
Oh, Alabama!
Well,
in one of the stops
on the trip.
Well, you'll have to mail them to us.
So I will definitely mail you copies.
Thanks.
My journey begins. I never knew this life. Like, I didn't know there was anything other than my life that I was living. I grew up 14 and a half years of child sexual abuse, almost on a daily basis, by my stepfather. He was my best friend. He told me that's what love was, and so I felt so loved. And it was, how you hear people talk about, pay attention to the red flags if a child doesn't want to stay with.
Yeah, but you don't know the red flags at that time when they're your best friend.
And I was like, no, I was sharing yesterday, he gave me ice cream. I wouldn't get in trouble.
How old were you? Do you remember?
4.
Four.
When it started.
That's crazy. I was 4 too when he started.
Started at 4.
My stepfather abused me.
So we have very similar stories.
All
in
of us,
that,
I think.
that we were kind of groomed as their mistress.
Yes.
Well, I've never thought of it that way, but I guess so. Yeah.
I was very much groomed as that.
Yes. My mom would be away, and I remember memories of having to wear adult lingerie and tying it in my back so that it fit, and taking showers with him and things like that at a very, very young age.
And so, what did that lead to? What did that that pain
Led to
and that?
a life of promiscuity. It led to trying to cover up my pain, many relationships, failed marriages, drinking, top bunk in a jail cell, just so many things. And that's when I was facing a 3-year prison sentence because of my drinking. How did I get here? How did I get sitting on this top bunk and looking at my life is over? They're going to take my children from me. CPS is going to be involved. I'm going to prison. I'm going to lose my freedom. And I sat there and I thought to myself, and the person that did this is out there.
The person that did this to you, meaning?
Yeah, where I'm, at that point I realized, like, every person that had ever hurt me, raped me, molested me, was out there living life to the fullest. Not thinking of me.
Don't you hate that?
Not thinking of
like,
me.
We talked about this the other day. Like, I feel the same thing. Like, I struggle to forgive. And yet, remember I said, but how, you said the Lord in the Bible, vengeance mine, said the Lord.
Yes.
And I'm like, but they're out there having fun, and I'm here struggling.
Yes.
I know, like, so I can totally relate to that.
What the Lord shared with me, because that's what I struggled with, and said they are living their heaven on earth. This is it. If they don't repent and ask for forgiveness in what they've done, this is the best they're ever going to get.
Wow.
Where we have the hope of a future and of eternity with the Lord, they're not going to have that. So if this is the best they're ever going to live, then I just say let them enjoy it.
Would you say that jail cell was, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Was your lowest point?
Yes, absolutely. Was my lowest point. When looking and knowing that I was not going to go home to my children. That's when it hit, wow, how did I get here?
That's when it hit, how did I get here? But did you recognize prior to that your experiences with abuse led you there, or did you figure that out moving forward?
I don't think I ever did. I had always been a great kid. I never snuck out. I never did drugs. I tried to be that. I was always the eager beaver in school, always willing to help someone, but I always seemed that I was the one that was hurt, taken advantage of, and abused. And so sitting on that top bunk in a jail cell was going, again, how did I get here? I don't understand. I'm a good person. And asking God, if you're real, because I didn't know God. I'd never went to church, never read a Bible before, totally of the world. And I said, if you're real, I've tried other things, from men to drinking to, shopping. I mean, everything to make myself feel better. And I didn't understand what was happening, what was going on. So if you're real, then I don't know who you are. But if you're real, just don't take me from my children.
Yeah, wow.
Don't take me from my children. It's not their fault that I'm messed up, and I really don't even understand why I'm messed up. But it's not their fault. Now they're going to have to be without a mom for 3 years. And what is that going to mean? So I was bonded out of jail by my boyfriend. He's my husband today. I was bonded out of jail. And
so wait, how old were you then? Because I'm trying to get
37.
a timeline. 37. Okay.
37. And he bonded me out of jail, and I just knew something had to give. And so I went to church, Well, I'll say I went to church that Sunday because I got bonded out like on
I
Saturday.
think I read in your book that your probation officer had
Yes.
invited you to church.
Yes.
And you
Well-
wanted to show her that you were a good person, so you accepted. Is that
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I
Wow.
went to church and just went there to go. But then Monday when I went to report to my probation, my bond probation, because I was out on bond, I had to go report and let them know where I was at, what I was doing and stuff. And the regular probation officer that I was supposed to see got called away. I had to see someone else, and that probation officer is the one when I was sitting in her office. And I was
funny
sitting
how
in her
God
office, I was getting
orchestrated.
really mad because I'm sitting like this, like we're sitting, and she's got a folder and she's writing in her folder, and I'm looking, and she's got a Bible open on her desk, and there's crosses, and I can see that she's a believer now that I know that, but I didn't know then. And I'm looking, and the more I looked at stuff, the madder I got, because I'm like, how could you serve a God that does stuff like this to me? And she looked at me.
Because you were like in a victim mentality at the time. Yeah.
I was in a victim mentality. So I'm looking and I'm thinking, how is she doing this? And so she looks up at me and she said, "Are you okay, Miss Flores?" Because that was my name. And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not okay." And I just let her have it about all the sexual abuse. Why did I have to be molested at 4 years old? And why did I have to be raped at 15 by, a good friend? Why did this happen? Why did my mom die? Why? And I just all the whys.
And then you had another sexual abuse victimization too, right? Your cousin?
Yes.
So that kind of goes to the fact that we kind of feel like we've
Yeah, the
got a
neon sign,
neon
come
sign
get
on
me.
our head that we're vulnerable
Yes.
in that area.
Was that the first time you disclosed or poured out? Or
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. So at age 37, you had held all
Oof,
that in for
that's
so
a
long.
long time.
Yes. And not saying anything. But and then when she's just looking around and I'm like, and I let her have it. And she did not say one word to me. She got up, walked around the desk, and came and hugged me.
Aw.
And shared her faith with me. And she says, "You need Jesus." And I was like, "I don't need your Jesus. He did this to me." And she says, "No, I said you need to know Jesus." And I just broke and I just started just crying. She hugged me and invited me to church with her. And I said, "I'm not going to church." And then I'm like, "But if I decide to, what's the address?" I wrote it down. Because at that time, it was like I was thinking like, hey, this isn't about me changing or that God's going to help me or I'm going to meet this Jesus. It was, I need to get close to her because this will give me
like
some.
You have a court
I had
date.
motive.
Yeah.
You have court date
Yeah,
coming
I have
up.
a court date coming up.
All
This is
newbie
motive.
Christians I know are like, fake it till you make it. But then they don't realize it's not about making it.
That
It's
God's working.
Yeah. it's a fun-
God's
Yes,
working.
I went to church and the first sermon I heard was on spiritual warfare.
Wow.
And said, the pastor was preaching, have you gone through sexual abuse? Have you gone through trauma? Have you gone through grief? Have you gone through addictions? Have you done?
You're like,
and
me.
And I looked at her and I said, "Did you tell him everything
that I've been through.
And she
Yeah.
said, "No, God
Yeah.
is speaking to you." And I'm like,
Oh,
"What?"
that's huge.
And so I didn't understand this. And I said, "Well, how?" Well, then he was talking about, he said, God's got a purpose and a plan for you. That's why the devil's been trying to take you out with all these things. And he's saying all this stuff, and I'm thinking, so God didn't do these things to me. Somebody made a choice to do these things, and the enemy was out to destroy me because there's such a purpose in my life that the enemy never wants me to reach my purpose. Because once I reach my purpose,
Watch out, devil.
watch out.
Watch out.
And so that's where it was like, that's like a light bulb went off in my head. It was like, I need to know what this purpose is. And I asked her, I said, "So what's this purpose?" And she said, "The only way you're going to know your purpose is to get in God's word." I'm like, what does that mean? Where's God's word? I didn't even have a Bible. And so I called my only friend that I knew that was a Christian at that time, and was my ex-mother-in-law. And she bought me a Bible, and I
Dove in.
dove in. And
Was your
just, here I
boyfriend
am
at the
today.
time, did he know Jesus?
No, we have a long testimony. He was a one-night stand. I got pregnant with our son. He went his way, I went my way for 10 years.
Oh.
And then I got into a toxic relationship. and ended up getting a divorce, but would go back and forth for 3 years. I would go back to that toxic relationship, as most of us do in a relationship.
There's probably narcissism in there.
And I kept going back, but this time I knew I wasn't supposed to go back, and I had a court date to meet after 10 years. And it was on child support. And so we went back, and my husband and I have been together ever since that day in court.
Aww.
And so now we're in ministry together and things.
Well, I love the story in your book. It just really touched my heart how God did this. But she put in the visitation when she went after child support that it had to be supervised by her. So every visitation, she was along, and they were going to movies, and they were going bowling, and all of a sudden this love affair because they're together with their child.
Yeah.
And you have quite a few children.
I just got the chills. That's so cool.
Tell me how many children you have.
We have 6 together. I have 4 myself, and then we have 2 his children, so they're my children. So 6 children and 14 grandbabies.
Wow.
Big family.
Big.
Wow.
Yes.
That's fun. So fun.
So yes, and it was, I look at it now and see, God was like, okay, you want your way? Watch this. And, sets me up, and I'm the one, I'm thinking I'm doing, it's all about me. And
How long have y'all been married now?
December will be 15 years.
15 years. That's a beautiful love story.
Yes. It's had its up and downs with
course.
anyone. I tell people that, we had to grow in our faith with one another. He fell back into addiction, and I am, then I'm that religious, in your face, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and pride and everything. And so God had to take me down a few notches, and I didn't want anything to tarnish how people saw me in the community and things. And so it was like really exposed me to me. And that's what I always say. You got to always say, God, show me me. Show me me. Show me how you see me, because sometimes we can't see ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we can fall into legalism. And I think that's a big turnoff. A lot of people are turned off with Christianity with
I remember hearing the voice of the Lord at the beginning saying, don't get in the cage. And then at one point in my walk with the Lord, he said, you got in the cage.
What do you mean by that?
We can get caught up in the things of the church, and like Miss Angela said, the legalism and the do's and the don'ts. And it's, as much as I don't condone sin and all those things, but it is that there is grace and there's mercy, and he loves us, and we're going to fall. Just as I've said, I have fallen. I have not fallen back into my sin, not fallen back into drinking and things like that, but I've had my own struggles of, like I said, even the Lord exposing pride to me. Because when all of a sudden, when you go from being on the back burner of things, and then all of a sudden you're elevated to the front, and people are, wow, look at the great things you're doing. Look at how you're helping so many people. I was like, well,
yeah,
okay.
You have to keep pointing up.
Wow.
I know exactly what you're saying. You're going to say, it's not me, it's God. It's God working through me.
And I could say those things.
But it's hard. Yeah, no.
I would say
Pride
those
creeps
things. And it was there. And he was like, this is you. And how it got exposed to me was through a dear friend of mine that said, because I was like, I've just got to cut my husband loose. He's, doing this, and I'm just going to divorce him. And, okay, here's divorce number 4. Somebody's a common denominator in this. And, And so, but I was like, I'm not going to be one of those women that prays for her husband for 25 years and I'm still at the same place, and he needs to get on this journey with me. We walk down the aisle at the same time, and we just need to do this together, and he needs to be at the same place as I am. And my friend said, do you think it takes God 25 years to answer prayers? I was like, is that a trick question? And she said, LaNora, look around you. Look at heaven's army. Look at all the things that God is doing. But your heart's right for the people in the community. Your heart's right for ministry. But your heart's not in the right place for your husband.
Wow. What a testimony.
And she said, you need to check yourself. You're the one blocking the prayers for your husband. You can pray all day long. And she says, you're blocking it with your dark heart. And so I was like,
that's a little humbling.
How dare her say that to me?
Geez.
Does she see what God's
bold.
doing through me? And then that's all she said to me, and she shut the door. And I said, God, really? Look what you're doing through me. for all these people and I'm helping. And he said, pride. He just said pride, bitterness, anger, resentment. And I was, all of a sudden, I just hit the floor crying because I knew it was true.
Yeah.
I was angry at my husband for not being who I knew. I could see God created him to be. I could see I had such bitterness because I was having to continuously walk in spiritual warfare and battle for my marriage and for our children and, and war. And it was his place to do this. He's my husband. He's my covering. And so these things were coming about. And so it was, God had to expose me to me.
Yeah, for sure. Did you think, sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, my turn. I'm just curious because, we do talk a lot about child sexual abuse and how it affects our marriages and our relationships further on. I know you talk a lot about spiritual warfare and you felt like your husband needed to do a lot. But how did you, or have you recognized that the child abuse journey, the healing journey, has something to do with the filters and the pride and the wanting to feel, being used in a good way, valued? Yeah. Have you recognized that? Have you healed from that? And if so, like, how did you do that?
I believe it's a constant journey of healing. I'm still there. I'm still on that journey of healing, even all these years later. I tell the ladies I work with, you're not going to come in a program and be healed within 12 months. That's not going to happen. So God continuously shows me throughout this journey. I just have eyes open to see and want the healing and restoration. Through my marriage, has there been different things? It's been a constant journey in my marriage with trust, even intimacy, so many things that he didn't understand. He grew up with 77 cousins, and most of them are all boys. There was only one girl out of all of those.
Oh, my goodness.
So sexual abuse, when you talk to him, he's like, it was foreign to him. He had never really heard of that. He didn't understand. And so, and I wasn't speaking and I wasn't talking about the sexual abuse. So a pat on the back or a grab would trigger me into, that's all he wants. Oh my goodness. I'm back at that place again. It would freeze me. Or I would turn around and start yelling, don't touch me like that. And he'd like, wow, this
Did he know? Did he know about the abuse?
No, that's
early on.
Never
So
knew.
He didn't. So when did you?
Many years later.
37. I was 37. So we had got together. I guess a few years.
Into being together.
It was a couple of years. We had already got married. We got married on December the 12th, 2009, and he didn't know at that point. But I heard the Lord tell me 2 weeks after we got married and said that I was going to have to expose my secret in order for me to go where God was taking me and for the healing to begin. I did not want to tell anyone about this because now I'm married. The abuse had continued till I was 17 and a half. I just married this man, only 2 weeks. He's going to want to get this annulled because he's going to think I'm crazy. I'm a sicko.
I'm laughing because I can relate.
He's going to know, why didn't you stop this? You were 17 and a half. You knew.
Especially if they don't understand.
And they don't understand. Yeah. So I literally wrestled with God, at 3 a.m. in the morning going, oh, please don't make me tell him. Please don't make me tell him. I don't want to tell him. Please don't make me tell him. Just wrestling for, I felt like hours. And the Lord said, trust me in this relationship. And I woke him up and I said, I've got to tell you something now. And he goes, now? It's like, I have to tell you now. And I shared with him the abuse that I'd went through. And
you've got tissue if you need.
He just grabbed me and hugged me and said, I believe you.
Oh.
And we're going to get through this. Because he was friends with my stepfather.
So he knew him.
Yes. Whenever I told my stepfather at 17 and a half, he wasn't going to touch me anymore. I just said, you're not going to touch me anymore. And he said, okay. And turned around and walked out the door.
And he never did.
Never did again. That was it. It was that's. He just said, okay.
Where's your relationship with him now? Has he ever been held accountable?
No, ma'am. So I haven't talked to my family, my entire family, since 2009.
Oh, wow.
Well, when I came out about the abuse in December the 23rd of 2009, my entire family in one day died.
Wow.
We can relate to that.
You like aunts, uncles, you know, everyone that I thought was on that side of my family. Slowly, some have, like I had a few cousins that say, you know, thank you for speaking up. I was also molested by my father. But for years, it was like overnight, everyone just passed. And then I had to go through an identity crisis of, who am I? Did I ever have a family that loved me? Did they ever really care? Because I know that if I don't see someone, like knowing you, even just meeting you like one time is like even through the years, like following and wanting to know and missing and like, oh, I'm so excited about seeing Miss Angela. You know, that's a one-time meeting someone. Can you imagine living a life of 37 years in this person's life? And then all of a sudden one day, gone.
You're cut out.
They're cut out and don't even want to talk to you. Don't care to know anything about you. Don't care to meet your kids, their grandkids.
And my heart breaks.
Nothing.
My heart breaks so much for survivors that go through this and that aren't believed and aren't supported. I myself went through that, and it is so painful. It is so painful.
Yes.
You just feel like you are the one that has done everything wrong when it was the adult. And they see the 37-year-old standing before them. They don't see the 4-year-old.
Yes.
That had to endure all of that for all those years. There's no compassion. There's no empathy. There's no, and they don't understand why. You know, people are like, why didn't you tell? Well, why didn't you tell? Well, why didn't you tell? Well, I'm being groomed. I'm being threatened. I'm being beaten. They're threatening to kill he's threatening to kill my mother. I have 2 little sisters I'm trying to protect. So it's like, you don't have a voice. It's your power and your voice is totally taken away.
Yes.
And so for anyone listening, if you have someone in your family that's experienced sexual abuse, please understand that they didn't have the power to tell anybody, and support them and love them.
Or even the labeling. I went through, once I started my healing journey, I looked back and could see all the labels put on me. From, like I said, I lived a promiscuous lifestyle there for a season, and you know, things that I did, and it was all, I can look back now and go, yes, I got into those things and did those things, but that's what I was taught. Somebody's behind those things. You look at people, you know, like I said, I mainly work with women. I can look at them and see where they started sexual activity at an early age, or falling for many boyfriends and things like that. And my first thing is, you know, looking, going, and then parents and people will, well, she's, you know, I don't know what word I can say in this, but
you say whatever. If we'll bleep it if it's too much.
Okay, you know, well, I'll say for me, you know, she's running around, you know, the bars and living like a whore and things like this. And so it's like, that's all I knew was a life of sex.
And my stepfather would call me that.
Yes,
he would call me a whore. And you do walk in that identity for a season because you don't know, and you do feel so dirty and so ashamed. And it's physical. When a child's sexually abused at a young age, their hypothalamus actually grows and they're over-sexualized.
Yes.
They're overstimulated.
Well,
So
we don't know the
physical.
lines. That's all we know. So you can't expect an adult to look even at a 17-year-old and say, you should have known. But if that's how you grow up, you know, it's like our guest that, you know, if you grow up in a closet and you've never experienced anything other than that closet, you don't
I
know.
want to ask you, where's your relationship with your mother? How did she respond to the disclosure?
She passed away in 94. So
Okay, so she
years
never-
before. She never
knew?
Oh,
Do
she
you think
never
she
knew?
She caught him she didn't catch him. One time I remember being very young, and she woke up and he was on a pallet because we only had one air conditioner in the house and it was summer. And I remember they would put the children on the floor in her bedroom, and I was on the floor and he was on the pallet with me. And when she seen him on the pallet, of course, she just says something, and I pretend like I'm still asleep. And then he's like, the kids are asleep. Let's get out of here. You're being crazy, let's go in here. And so they go into the kitchen, and I can hear them arguing, but I'm hurrying up, putting on all my clothes and pretend like I'm still asleep. So that was she never asked me anything. She never said anything at all.
Too painful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So so I can't say she knew, but I would think as a mother, I'm a mother. It's there, but I can't say that for her, and she's not here. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So
one other thing that I would like to, you said earlier, was that how your mother said, "I've been watching you like a hawk." I hear that so often working with victims of sexual abuse. And I hate hearing that because I know that you can't watch like a hawk. I remember being in public places, and I believe that it was a game to him, and it was even more adrenaline to see how much and what I can do to not get caught. Because I remember being at a lake many, many, many times. I have many memories. And people all around us at the lake. And him wanting to pretend to teach me to swim. And he would say, come here, let me teach you how to swim. And so everyone is just where you're at right now. And him holding me. And all along when he's holding me out, he's actually having intercourse with me. You're right there.
Yeah.
That happened several times for me at the beach. He would take me in the water.
I wrote about it in my book.
Yeah.
We were in a pool in our backyard right in front of my mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
He didn't have intercourse, but
it was that adrenaline.
he was doing other things.
It was so many, just things like that, watching a movie and right there. And it was, so I hear that quite often. I'm like, there's no way.
There's no way.
You cannot watch like a hawk.
You can't. So mothers, if you have any indication or any suspicion, you need to talk to your child.
You need to remove the child with you from the situation.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I'll change, I'll get help. This was a one-time thing, or, they're crazy. They're literally, there's something wrong in their brain. Whether it's from past abuse or not, I don't care. Like, I don't even know.
It's the demonic working.
It's just-
It's just evil. It's just absolute evil.
Narcissism, the control, the con. I don't know about your guys' stepfathers, but my stepfather, he was conning everybody, not only to hide the abuse, but
He
about
was a
who
good
he
man in the
was and what
community.
he was
Real
doing.
good man.
Yeah, and then he later got caught, and I can't remember what business. I'm not going to say the business, but he got fired because of a con. So it's like, but you still question me? Like, really? Okay.
Exactly.
Well, let's dive into your work. Tell us about Heaven's Army.
Yes. One other thing I would like to share before Heaven's Army is that I went through all my years of school, and I make it a point to go speak in schools, especially to teachers and counselors, because I went from early childhood of probably about 4, so your Head Start, all the way to my senior year of high school, and not one teacher, not one,
Bring it, sister.
said anything
Big
or
same.
recognized anything.
I had one teacher.
And
You
that
did have one teacher?
bothers me, and I share with teachers because I was with them more than I was with anyone.
Yeah.
And if they'd seen anything, because if they're more educated on what to look for, or don't walk in fear, just the way that probation officer didn't walk in fear, because in Texas you can't share your faith in a government entity, and that was a government entity of where I was going to probation, and her to share her faith, invite me to have a personal relationship outside of business, she could have lost her job. But at that point, my future, my life, she knew that there was something there and she needed to help. Teachers, I feel, are the same place, because they see something, but they fear losing their jobs. They fear, what if I'm wrong? What if they get mad? And they just don't say anything. Had someone said something, a teacher, where would I be today?
Yeah.
How many years of abuse could
they have
saved
saved
you?
Yeah.
It
Could
saved
they
me
have saved
from
you?
those things.
Yeah.
Because
And-
I had teachers that I really loved. That was my saving grace, was going to school.
My safe place, I called
My
it.
safe place was there, yes. It was like they were...
I was an alter ego in high school. I was somebody else.
Go there and I could help. I always wanted to help the teachers. I'm always,
Teacher's
why
pet.
did you not? That's what I was. That's why I said they always gave me the award Eager Beaver, because I always wanted to help everybody. I always stayed inside. I never wanted to go outside and play. These are years of school.
Yeah, so
And never going out.
I pray the Find Your Voice program that's up there is a curriculum, and it's written for pre-K to third grade to just give teachers a tool that they could read the children's books and do activities and help children know they have a voice, and they shouldn't ever be told to keep secrets and what a personal boundary is. We were never taught that as children.
Right.
Yeah, we don't know.
So if you're a teacher listening, check out our Find Your Voice program.
Yeah, I'll put it in the link. It's
Yeah,
already there, but I'll put it again.
AngelasVoice.com/resources.
I did have a teacher who didn't necessarily say anything to my parents, but she knew something was up, and she did pull me aside, and I wasn't too eager to talk about anything, and she didn't ask me directly, but it was like over time she gained my trust, and finally, I opened up to her, and she it was a private school, so I don't know if this is available to public schools, but there was a therapist on campus, and it was free. I remember, well, I guess so, because I don't think she ever spoke to any of my family members, but I did have the opportunity to talk to a counselor and navigate at least I was in 7th grade, but I was supposed to be in 8th grade, which is a whole nother story. So that did help a little bit, but yeah, I think that was not common. I don't think that experience.
But you told her about the abuse?
I don't know if I told her directly.
Okay.
I think she knew there was something going on, and I just confirmed it. I don't know. I don't remember giving details.
But even at that point, if she knew or could feel there was something, why didn't you go a step further?
Yeah.
If she never even talked to your parents, she never reported.
We have to remember
anything?
my parents were in Europe and Central and South America. I was living with my grandparents. Yeah. So can you imagine telling a whole nother generation where they're like not going to talk about that?
I had two teachers that I didn't disclose the abuse, but I tried to commit suicide in 3rd grade. Took a bottle of vitamins, and they called my parents in, and there's obviously a problem here, and they explained it that I was just a dramatic child always seeking attention. And then I had a 4th grade teacher that I had told her I was raped. Like I said it, like I said the word, because I had kind of watched in 4th grade, I had watched enough soap operas that I had kind of picked up that this is what was happening. And again, they brought my parents in, and again they said that I was a habitual liar and that just wanted attention. And when I got home that day, I was beaten so brutally. I was like, I will never open my mouth again. Mm-mm.
And no one recognized when you went back to school that any other bruises or anything?
No.
Wow.
They took my parents' word that I was just a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Yes. And in Texas, they're passing where in the schools they will have mental health and things like that inside the schools and for medication and things. It bothers me because if you get to a root, there's a reason why there's children acting out. There's a reason why they're doing the things that they're doing, that they're saying they're depressed or they're wanting to commit suicide. And they're labeling them again with something and not looking to the root of the problem. That there is an adult behind this, whether it's dysfunctional living at home.
And it's a systematic problem.
Abuse.
It's to sexualize our children. It's a pedophilic agenda.
Absolutely.
I truly believe that our systems are so broken, and they're broken to support the pedophiles who control the systems. So
Absolutely.
we got to keep fighting, and we got to fight harder, because we're losing our children more and more every year. Even those that collect the statistics, I think,
they're wrong.
Erring. Yeah.
Well, they have to be wrong because
They
they're
have-
different every week. It's a different.
Rarely do I meet someone that has not been sexually abused. Rarely, in some form or fashion, whether it's through pornography or it's through someone they know and love and trust. It's rare that I meet someone that doesn't have a history.
We had a Bible study the other night in the home, and 100% of the people sitting there had been sexually abused. 100%.
Yeah, that's.
So what's Heaven's Army?
So Heaven's Army is a women's discipleship home, and we also have them now out. I always keep forgetting we have a men's home now. And
Don't forget about the men.
I know. So Heaven's Army started as a resource center. So like I said, whenever I first started my journey, it was, wow, there has to be other people like me. I want to help because, wow, I didn't know this. Like there's healing. So I started a Bible study for women, but I also, women would come to the Bible study and a resource center. So I started Heaven's Army of Resources and Recreation Center. So through that, it was, you come to a Bible study because I really want you to, Jesus changed my life, and I know he can change your life. I didn't know the extent of all of that. I didn't know where this was, what all God had planned for me or anything like that. I was just so new, because I started Heaven's Army 3 months after getting saved.
Wow.
I was still facing a prison sentence. I was still dysfunctional. I still didn't know. I'm a baby in Christ. And I'm just like, but there's so much behind this, like just the little bit that I have is I'm already starting this healing process. And so I got a building and I started doing these classes and Bible studies. And then I was like, okay, how about what would keep you coming? So then it was like, well, I have kids. Well, what can I do for the kids? So then that's where it started. So long story short, it went from a Bible study to over 26 different services free to the community. However, I'm about being a hand up, not a handout. And you could get free services as an adult, but you had to come to Bible study. So everything had to be that you could come. So we had a gym, so you could come work out, but you had to come to a Bible study first, and you get these passes. Or your kids could be in cheerleading and dance, but you had to come to Bible study in order for your children to participate in these things for free. And so that's the way it worked. And we outgrew that building within 6 months, and got a bigger building. And in that time, I was meeting women. I'd never heard of human trafficking before. My journey had always just been sexual abuse, child sexual abuse and molestation. And so I'm hearing about women that are being sexually abused and they're in prostitution and they're being trafficked. And I'm going, what? What do you mean? Here in this little small rural town, this is happening? And so that opened my eyes, and then the investigator in me just came out, and I just wanted to research, and I just started asking questions and going and looking and getting out of my own bubble of where I was at and going out into the streets and looking, and I wanted to help.
Yeah.
This was now just my life was to, my journey was to, we got to expose this. We got to expose this dark side that the enemy is out to destroy society with this. And so that's, so within
amazing.
4 years, I immediately wanted to get a home to help these women, because I would tell them, if you want out, call me.
Wow.
If you want out, call me, I'll help you. No matter what that looks like, from a pimp, from an abuser.
I hope you have bodyguards.
You would no, I went just like this.
You just
By myself.
The armor of God, I guess.
I tell people, because they ask me, and I say, it was truly the glory of God that sent me him going. I say, I could just picture him going, oh gosh, there she goes again.
There she goes again. Gotta protect her.
Gotta protect her. Because I would go in crack houses. I would go into the streets. I didn't go with a weapon. I didn't go with anyone. I would tell my husband, because he didn't even understand. Remember, he don't understand all of this is still as well. And so I would tell him, it's like, hey, I've got someone. They call me. It's the middle of the night. You know, they call me. I have to go. He'll say, okay, be careful.
Be careful.
She'll be asleep. I'm like, all right, bye.
Did he even have a clue the danger you were going into?
Not until he went with me one time. He's like,
oh my gosh.
You got to get armed. You have to get a weapon. You have to do this. And like, because I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop doing what I do.
So how many does your home accommodate?
The home, I can house 12.
Okay.
I have 8 that's in what we call discipleship, and then 4 in leadership. I have had homes where I could house more, but to truly have that personal intimacy with someone to help them truly heal.
Yeah.
It's not about numbers, and this is where people lose it. People. How do you calculate success? You calculate success by saying, "Oh wow, LaNora has 300 girls in a home." Is that real success? Mm-hmm. Or she can bring, 30. She's got 30 beds. Mm-hmm. How would you mother 30 children? Do you really think you're giving them your true? Do you think you're really giving them 30? Time and your energy and quality time with you? No, you're not. Yeah. So they're just there.
I love the substance of that. I really.
And so when they've gone through so much, as we know, severe trauma, they need attention. They're needy. They need love. Mm-hmm. They need correction.
Yeah.
They need discipline. Mm-hmm. And so to truly see all those things, I can't have 20, 30 women at one time, and I'm there. Mm-hmm.
Well, you've got a lot of trauma in one house, so I can imagine when you talk about correction, because I know what I've been through, and that's with having a huge restraint on me, and having healed. I have my triggers too, so
and sometimes I'm pushing you away because you're going to leave anyway, or you're going to do this to me anyway, or you're someone I can't trust anyway. So you're literally having to stand with them through this entire journey, and you have these women that have gone through some of their stories. I tell them they're the true heroes, and to hear them, and I can't even imagine being zip tied, thrown in the back of vehicles, jumping out of cars to save my life, and knowing someone has videos of me, and they're out there anywhere. I mean, just the constant thought of things like that for women that I work with and stuff. I've had a lady that came in one time that was beaten with a coat hanger, and her abuser had a wire coat hanger. And you know how the end of it, the wire coat hanger, and it was stretched. And she remembers. I remember her telling me her story. And when she wouldn't do as he told her to do, or she didn't meet quota, he would whip her with that coat hanger on her thigh, and the end of it would hit her and just rip it. And so she had scars over her legs, and but that's what it was from, was the coat hanger just ripping the skin. I can't even imagine.
So I guess you have plastic hangers in the house.
So let's dive into this. Tell me what led you to write a book, and tell us about the book. And we're going to have it in a link, so if people want to purchase it, they can. But tell us a little bit about it.
So in 2011, the Lord, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was hanging up my husband's clothes in the closet, and he said, "You're going to write a book one day, but not now. Pay attention to the journey." Mm-hmm. And so my book is about the journey that God took me on through healing, through the miracles of really stepping out in faith. I've been on a faith walk since 2009, when I asked the Lord, show me, not take me from my children. He never took me from my children. When I went to court that day, they lowered my felony to a misdemeanor and sent me home that day.
Nice.
The judge got sick, seen one person. He went through a file of, we were all sitting in a courtroom. He went through it, pulled out one folder. That one folder was me. I'm going, oh, goodness, me? And he asked me, and at that time I had already started Heaven's Army, the journey. I had already started working. He says, what are you doing since you got this DWI? And I said, I'm just sharing Jesus. I'm wanting people to heal. And so I told him more about what I was doing, and he says, well, keep doing that. And he lowered my felony to a misdemeanor and sent me home.
Amen. That is the grace of God. That is the grace of God.
He gave me 3 days in jail. And I went in on the Day of Atonement, which is the holiest day of the year. I went in with a smiling face. I said, I'm going in behind the walls because I got to witness to somebody, share the gospel. And I went in, and I did. I led a lady to the Lord sitting on a bottom bunk in jail. And as soon as I led her to the Lord, they called my name. I mean, I wasn't there hours. They called my name and they said, Flores. And I said, yes. And they said, you're going home. And I'm like, but I'm here till Sunday. I have 3 days.
I got 3 days to witness.
3 days. And they said, you want to stay? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'll go home.
I did my job.
Yeah. And so they sent me home. I literally was there
That's
to
crazy.
share the gospel with one person. And later, a few years later, she ended up coming in the home of Heaven's Army into the Home of Amazing Grace. And so, like I was saying earlier, I started working with the ladies and sharing with them if they ever went out, I would just call me. And so I started rescuing. I started doing that. And I would put them in, take them to shelters and to other homes. And there was something missing because I was losing a disconnect. At that point, they had trusted me. I had built a relationship with them, but I was disconnected from them. And I knew I would call to check on them, or some of them I couldn't have a relationship with them because they were in that program or wherever they were
Isolated,
or you can't know where they're at. You can't talk to them in shelters and you couldn't go see them. And I'm thinking, look, I'm the one trying to help them too. But I couldn't even know where they were at. You know, I remember dropping off many ladies at a CVS pharmacy and cops take them somewhere. What's happening now? You know? And so I was, God, there's got to be more. There has to be something. There's a piece missing here. I'm helping them, but then what? And some of them are shelters. They're just laying a place to lay down their head, but they're not really getting healing for the trauma they had been through the abuse they had endured. So 4 years of truly fasting and praying and saying, God, show me what you want me to do. He shared with someone, God spoke to someone and told him to give us a home. So they gave me a 5-bedroom home on 3.5 acres of land, and within 30 days, I turned it into a women's home, and I was taking the ladies and putting them in that home. And that's when I said I had over 20 women in the home, and it was like, whoa. And now trying to learn through this process, there was not everyone's healing was going to be the way I healed. Not everyone's trauma was, even though trauma's trauma, pain's pain, I was having to approach it differently.
Well, it's on a continuum.
It's
what
not.
We say.
Yeah.
A lot of programs will be. They feel like they create them to be a cookie cutter. This is the way it is. This is the way we do things. At the end of my manual, it is subject to change daily.
Yes.
Because if I get someone in, the way I have to watch them and truly see how they're responding, see what they're doing. Because I have to now approach that trauma in a different way than I did someone else. And sometimes their trauma is something I have. One of the guests that that came with me today, it showed me narcissism. I'd never, like I said, my focus was sexual abuse, human trafficking, sex trafficking, and things like that. Had not led me into that of truly diving deep into studying that. So now I'm having to hear the voice of the Lord to truly guide me to what I am doing to help this person. If God sends me someone, I know that the Lord sent them to me to help them, and it's not going to look like LaNora's way. So you have to hear his voice. You have to be called into this ministry.
Yeah.
You have to be
tough.
called in. A lot of times, and I went through this with getting volunteers and people, they'll come in with the heart and they feel like, oh, I just want to help. And then when I give them an application and then it says, have you been sexually abused? Have you been raped? They're like, I don't want to answer that. I'm like, oh, okay, then it's not going to work with you volunteering here.
Yeah.
And that's hard sometimes because most would be, okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
But I have to make sure you're strong enough to come into this, and where are you at in your healing? I'm not saying that you're completely healed, but if you're not even addressing it yourself, and these women are sitting at a table like this with you in a Bible study, or you're volunteer, you're cooking with them, no matter what you're doing.
You're going to be triggered.
And you're going to be triggered.
Exactly.
And stuff. And so I literally have to protect the ladies in the home, and that starts with my volunteers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I loved your book, and I'm excited to offer it to our viewers because I really see a healing journey in here is what I see.
Yes, ma'am. And my thing is, you asked me, earlier, what's something inspiration? It is that it is healing from the past brings hope for the future. Because if we do not let go of what our past created for us, then there's going to be a hard time healing in the future because our past is not our future.
Amen.
There
That's
is
a
so much
great
more.
voice of inspiration.
And that
for
is
sure.
why I say, and if on my book, if you look, if I continued seeing LaNora, as that 4-year-old that was molested and then made all these bad choices that ended up on a top bunk in a jail cell, that's my mugshot. Then that's all I could see. I wouldn't see who God created me to be today, and being on your show, traveling 14 hours to come to Georgia to share, and being so excited about coming and talking about the abuse that I was excited.
I love the back. I love the back, that beautiful picture of you with the crown.
You know, let me share something with you about that you say that. Because even the cover was a journey for me in my healing. Because one thing, I never wanted my hair up. I struggled with my hair up. But when I got the vision of when the Lord spoke to me about the book, and he said, and I could see the vision, I could see the cover, I could see that I had a crown on, I could see my hair was up because I was royalty. And that was in the beginning of my journey. And when the photographer took me to do my pictures, and I looked at them, I was so excited and everything because I hadn't seen them. When I seen the pictures, I broke and I said, no, I don't like these pictures. I don't want to redo them. I want my hair down. I want my hair this way. And everybody was saying, they're beautiful. I was like, no, I don't like it. And I was crying. I was mad. Now, this photographer had taken her time to do all this photo shoots and stuff with me. And I was so hurt by these pictures. And I asked the Lord, why? Why am I feeling this way? And he said, 2 pictures. That's all I heard was 2 pictures. And that night, I didn't get any sleep. And I just kept, again, wrestling with God. I don't want that picture on my cover. I don't want to deal with this. And he said 2 pictures. And I remember 2 pictures. He reminded me. One was when I was very little, and I got bullied so much in school because we were very poor. And my mom had dressed me in boy clothes because I got hand-me-down clothes, and I remember having them on, and she had put my hair in pigtails, and they were braids, and so my hair was up, and so I got bullied because I had on boy clothes and I looked like a little Indian, and they picked on me all the time because I was so dark, and it was just a bullying, and I never wanted my hair up again. I never wanted my hair in pigtails. I never wanted my hair braided, anything. The second one was when I was in high school, I had made cheerleader. And even though I did it without my parents' permission, and I got in trouble for trying out, but I'd made it. And, who do you think you are that now we're going to spend money on a cheerleading uniform? And then I was called names because I wanted to wear a short skirt, because of the abuse. And my dad didn't want me to dress like that. And I couldn't wear makeup and things like that. So on the day of the cheerleading pictures, I walked out and had my hair down. And he says, go put your hair up. I like to see your neck. Because now I'm going to have a short skirt on in these pictures and my hair up. I said, I don't have time. I said, go put your hair up. And so I went back in my room and I put my hair up and I had it pinned up for my cheerleading pictures. And I hated those pictures because my hair was up. And I always thought if my hair's up, people are going to think that I'm either trying to be sexy or they're going to look at me wrong. They're going to think different things of me, or they're going to bully me.
So that was your filter.
I was not wearing my hair up through life. I was just not. And so when I seen it, nope, don't want my hair up.
So this is you.
That's me.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It is so beautiful.
And so, and the back, one of my disciples had said, Miss LaNora, I see you on the back cover and you're holding the crown up. And she says, you're putting it like you're giving it over to God, like you're putting it at the foot of the cross.
Amen.
And you're handing it over. That's what this journey is all about, is one day laying our crown down at his feet.
Amen.
And so the back of it was, now you can see my face, and I was okay.
Yeah.
I was okay with you seeing, because you know what, my abuser don't own my neck. And that's what I said. He don't own my neck. He don't own me.
Yeah.
He don't own anything about me, and I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I can wear my hair up if I want to wear my hair up, because and that was another part of the journey of healing.
Even in writing the book.
Even in writing
LaNora,
the book.
What a beautiful picture you are of just being a victim to victorious.
Yes.
And I'm so honored to know you and honored to have had this time with you today. And we'll have to have you back again.
Yes. I would love the
Another road trip.
I know. Another road trip.
I constantly
You gotta tell
have
me so I can
disciples
do
graduating. So you know what? It's on to the next ones that graduate to come to Georgia with me. So I would love that. And, it is a true inspiration to be here to see you.
It comes full circle, doesn't it?
It does. It comes full circle. And I could talk about this. And, that's even, again, full circle. When you say the word full circle, was how I even voiced up and talked about the sexual abuse was because.
I love your Voice Up program. I'm like, I love that.
It came around, and I teach these ladies, you got to voice up, whether it be against domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, anything else. We have to have a voice to voice up. And it is that my nieces had came to me, and I knew they were being sexually abused. And remember, I told you, I never said anything. And that's what sparked me, that God used. And he says, you thought you were only protecting you, because a lot of times we'll say, I'll take the pain and I won't say anything, because if I say something, it's going to affect an entire family. So I'll just endure this myself. I'm the only one.
Not knowing
there was more.
Abuse,
and so I know that my stepsister has been sexually abused, and even though she won't admit to it. I know her children have been sexually abused. I know they have sexually abused my nieces, and my nieces had came over at 4 years old and was playing family with my daughter, and my daughter came to me and said, I don't like my cousins anymore. I'm like, why? This is on December the 22nd. Remember, I told you I said something on December 23rd, December 22nd. I don't like my cousins anymore because they wanted to touch my hiney. And all of a sudden, my heart just drops to my feet. I'm like, what? Yeah. And then I called my sister and asked her to let my nieces come back over. And, of course, she let me babysit. And I asked them where they learned this, and they started sharing. And that's a whole nother journey there. But that opened my eyes. And the Lord said to me, you thought you were only, this was only a
you thing.
We say all the time, say something, say something.
Circle. Yep. Even though my stepfather had not molested my daughter, he did.
He did.
Because of my silence, and says, because you won't use your voice. You won't say something.
Well, I'm just going to have you repeat your voice of inspiration for our listeners, and we'll close our show today with that. And we're so grateful that you came, that you made that long journey. We're so grateful for our viewers. Please share. Please comment. We thank Mesmerize Media for making this possible.
Absolutely.
And so look into that camera and share.
My voice of inspiration today is healing from the past brings hope for the future.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. And I think we're going to call whatever the title is part 1, because you have brought some amazing guests, and we'll do that in part 2.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm Katie Sudano.
Thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you.